Hey you there. Yeah, you there, friend. Hi, it's good to see you. Welcome back to class. So I have a question. Are you afraid your main character is going to be about as intriguing as white bread? Or maybe you're afraid you've overpacked them with a bunch of overcomplicated, convoluted, and otherwise unnecessary lore, quirks, and trauma, enough to fill and overflow the Empire State? You know what? So was I. So let's talk about how to fix that. Warning, biggest warning to ever have warning ever, Mount Warning. If you get that reference, please marry me. I don't know what I'm talking about. Okay, I know what I'm talking about, but I am not an expert. I am here to give my 2 cents about what has worked for me and what makes me feel like my characters are intriguing enough to show them to the world, even though my comic isn't even out yet and I haven't even gotten any real feedback from anyone in the real world to tell me that my characters are written well. But I do have a decent understanding of people, and I use people to write my characters, and people are flawed and disgusting and weird and strange, so a lot of my characters follow that format. But anyway, sometimes I'm gonna hit gold here, and sometimes it's gonna fly over your head, and sometimes it's not gonna strike with you at all, and that's okay. Take what works for you and leave what does not. Thank you very much. Warning complete. Alright, let's hop right into this thing. Your main character is your story vehicle. They are the pilot of a private jet, and on that jet you've got things like tone, theme, intrigue. All this stuff is flying along with them. They are in fact the pilot, and your MC can either crash that plane dead into the ocean or land it smoothly on solid ground by the end. What all that really means is that your main character can actually honestly make or break your story. No amount of interesting side characters, gripping plots, or beautiful character designs can save a story from a bad MC. And yes, I said bad, Piglet, because if you and your main character are not cohesive and working together, if you don't even like your main character and nothing's working here, everything else starts to feel weaker. And when a story starts to feel weaker on behalf and because of an MC, that makes the main character bad. Nothing about personality or X, Y, and Z needs to be the issue, but if your main character isn't suitable for your story, which we will talk about, then your main character is a bad main character because they're not serving their purpose. They are not being the pilot. They are in the back seat while the plane is flying itself. Your main character determines the story, the tone, and how the viewer experiences everything. They are the emotional lens. They decide whether your story feels intense, hopeful, tragic, or even comedic. So before you dive into plot or world building or lore, you need to ask yourself one important question. What kind of character does your story actually need? Again, what kind of character does your story actually need? Not what you think is cool, not what you've seen before. What does your story require to function at its best? If your story is dark, heavy, and oppressive, do you want a character who challenges that darkness or one who is consumed by it? If your story is hopeful and bright, do you want someone who reflects that energy or someone who contrasts it? Your main character is the emotional filter for your story. They decide how we process the world you've built. So ask yourself this: is my character shaping the story, or is the story shaping them? Because that answer will define your pacing, your tone, and your character arcs. And once you know that, you can start to build them properly. Alrighty, this is my system. This is how I keep my characters consistent without overthinking about it, without overthinking them as a person, without getting too lost in one specific character at a time. Although I did have like a hyperfixation on this one OC of mine named August, from like quarantine, high school, oh my god, I feel old. From like quarantine to like, what was it, like 2022? I was obsessed with him. I was drawing him every day. I was like obsessing over his lore, and he's such a side character in the story. Not really. He's not really a side character specifically, but he is a character that only shows up when he's like desperately needed. He's not just chilling in the Hartwell estate like Reggie or Azzy, just being over for the night because they love their family. August only shows up when Demi's dying, or when another family member is dying, when somebody's diagnosed with something. Like, you know, he's a doctor. He's a family doctor. But he has like a standing within the story, And oh my god, I'm yapping. Okay, but yeah, he matters a lot because he's a big part of the pre-story to the Hartwellheim, which I'm not writing, or I don't even think I'm gonna write, but it's all of like the war stuff, everything that happens during like Lucien's time and like Freya's time and Jean's time. Anyway, I love August, and I hyperfixated on him for a really long time, and I fleshed out all his lore, and for a while he's more fleshed out than Demi was, and it was literally insane. It was crazy. But anyway, let's jump into my system and how I write characters now. Alrighty, step 1, ground them in reality. This is the basics. This is everything you know to be true about character and character design and all kinds of stuff. From the jump, decide their race, gender, nationality, base culture, if it is important to a romance or whatever, their sexuality, their sexual preferences, everything. Decide all that now. Then, decide where they live. These things are very important because they directly affect how characters will interact with others, how they speak, how they move, and how they perceive the world. Step 2, build the core personality. Now, here is the kicker. This is how my system keeps characters consistent. So I want you to write down, whether it be on paper, whether you type it out, I want you to write down 3 positive traits for this character, 4 negative traits, 1 large vice, a relatable or cool desire or hobby, and lastly, a quirk that grounds them emotionally. Don't focus on design yet, capture their soul first, like lightning in a bottle. Because if the personality isn't there, the design won't save it. I'm telling you, the design shall not save you from a piece of white bread or somebody who's just doing too much. Step 3. This is the final step, technically. Not really, but technically within the creation process, it's the final step. But anyway, step 3. Pick one of the major 16 personality types. Don't assign it. Measure their behavior against it. We've talked about this before. I believe that was the video before this one, or the first video I posted on this series. But typology is very helpful. If you want to do a little quick Google search, look up typology, personality typology, personality typology, and you will get the main 16 personality types. Or just look up major 16 personality types. Go down the list of how they react and everything, like just the basics, and pick one. Or if you already have your character well developed, measure their behaviors against one of those and pick one for them. So I want you to look at this type and how they typically react under stress, process emotions, and make decisions, and then use that to narrow down the behaviors of your characters, their beliefs, and their goals. Step 4, I believe this is actually the final step, yes. Bring them to life. From here, you can give them a name that mirrors their function in the story, or one that, contrasts their function in the story, whatever you feel like doing, or just a name you think is pretty cool. Create a design that supports or contradicts. Why can't I speak? Destroy me, throw me in a pit of fire. Create a design that supports or contradicts that function, and fully characterize them as a person. Your character doesn't even have to be a good person. They don't even have to be a decent human being. The villain could be the MC. Whatever you're working with, they just have to have relatable desires. Selfish but reasonable characters are extremely popular in media right now. But me personally, I love a good-hearted, deeply flawed main character. Somebody who's just struggling and just barely making it by on the side of good. It's just like, ugh, delicious, so scrumptious. That's how it really be feeling to be a nice person in the streets. But yeah, I love good-hearted, deeply flawed main characters, so that's exactly what I created. Speaking of... This is my main character. His name Demi. He just be doing things. He just be a little man doing detective things, dancing and backflipping and playing guitar and singing and dancing. He just want to be a creative at heart. He want to be a creative caregiver at heart, but that's not what he gets to be. He has to be outside in the street shooting people and blowing up buildings and freaking Leon Kennedying. But anyway, yeah, this is my little OC. His name is Demetrius Malachite Hartwell, and I adore him. As much as I say I hate him, at my core, I love what this character represents. And he's exactly the kind of character I would have wanted to watch as a kid on TV. He's black, he's a man, and he's super cool. So I just made the character that I never really got to see. And I know that sounds so corny, like so stupid and so like woke and everything. You know, people be like, black people have great character representation. Look at Big Hunka Chunka punches somebody in the head, gangster man. That's exactly how all black people are. Of course we're pleased.
I'm clever.
Jokes aside, I just made the MC I would have loved and adored to see as a kid on TV. Cool black guy, being black, doing black people stuff, you know, without the racism attached or the stereotypes or the fact that he has to be a hoodlum and grow up in the hood and be poor. So yeah, that's what we doing. But anyway, let's take the whole of everything we've just learned and apply it to Demi's character. So I have his background here. I have his personal conflicts here as well, and I have his personal transformation, how he goes from all of the questions I mentioned at first, who raised him, what breaks him, and then what fixes him. All of these things are constantly moving within the story, and you can see them reflect back in his character, because what breaks him is actually, in a way, what winds up healing and restoring him, and you'll see it throughout the story if you decide to read the comic when it comes out next year in June. Okay, I'm definitely gonna plug myself in every single video, because please read my comic. Buy my book. Buy my book.
Buy my book. Buy my book.
So yeah, we're gonna start at personality here, because I feel like the whole backstory and everything, I've talked about his backstory, Jesus. I've talked about his backstory a few times in my videos, and you can just read the little bits I've kept up on the screen for you right here. But in terms of personality, Demi is introverted, compassionate, idealistic, intuitive, and deeply empathetic. Now, all of those things don't mean he's a shut-in, but over time, because of his trauma, he has become more like in tune with being alone. I think he prefers that because either A, in his mind, he can't hurt people, and B, in his mind, he can't be hurt by others because of what he's experienced in the past. So that is all reflective of how his main personality, what he was low-key born with and raised into, was transformed by what damaged him, which comes back again to the 3 questions I left at the beginning-ish. Anyway, he feels everything, basically. He feels everything, but he doesn't always show it, and that's kind of the core of his personality as well. So his moral compass comes down to believing in second chances, wanting to uplift others, and the fact that he makes decisions for the greater good even when it costs him personally. I think that I've definitely developed this love for the humanitarian MC, who also struggles with feeling selfish at times for just wanting basic joy, like Spider-Man. Sometimes Spider-Man can genuinely exhibit selfish behaviors, but the world always corrects him. I'm gonna come back to talking about Spider-Man because I love Spider-Man and what he represents, okay? You can bully me, you can call me a child, I don't care. Spider-Man is peak. We all know this. Everyone who says Spider-Man is stupid is lying. You're telling lies. Anyway, his strengths as a person, he's an emotionally intelligent man, a natural listener, he's adaptive and protective. These all aid in his ability to be a good detective, but also makes him suffer. Also makes him suffer on the behalf that he cares a little bit too much. And his personal talents that he doesn't really care to talk to people about or do at all, and you'll only catch him doing it in the comic if he's by himself or with Reggie, is basically like his talent in music and the arts. So Demi sings, dances, and plays the guitar. That's what he likes doing. That's would have been his like career maybe if he wasn't traumatized by the Trinity Society. But no, he did originally want to be a teacher, and he probably would have taught those 3 things. But anyway, now we have quirks. We're gonna go on to quirks now. He finds comfort in cutting vegetables and watching drama television. He likes teaching. Genuinely, it makes him very happy to be able to share with people his knowledge. And he very much enjoys people watching. He does a bunch of other stuff right here. But I developed these quirks based on things I've noticed actual people do, and not just something random, but something that roots back to how he calms down his nervous system. So he has a problem with fidgeting, and he specifically like pokes at his skin, and it's like, oh, I'm alive. It's a reminder I'm alive. I can feel pain. So that it directly correlates back to his psychology. If you're going to give your character quirks, have those quirks link up with who they are. Because if you're going to be like, my character actually draws when they're nervous, and then they can't draw, it's like, what are you saying? Maybe doodling makes sense, but if they're actually whipping out a masterpiece and they've never had any kind of desire to draw at all, it just doesn't connect. I know that was a very dramatized version of that, but make sure that your character's quirks link up with what they actually like doing, or maybe like how they calm themselves down, things like that. You know, it all comes back to base psychology. And then of course here are his flaws. He has very many more, but these are the main ones that come up. Very many more. These are the ones that come up mainly in the story. So he struggles with his self-image, mostly because of the Trinity Society. You'll see. If you're intrigued and going to read this comic, you will hate me. I'm so sorry. He is self-sacrificing to a fault. He withdraws when he's overwhelmed. He has a very big difficulty with saying no in specific situations. He has a very complex relationship with physical touch and boundaries. And he struggles with control and struggles with identity and vulnerability. This all is a very hard topic to touch on. Especially for a person of color character, because I don't know if you guys know this, but a lot of black people don't believe mental illness exists. Like, look, what you need therapy for? Oh my god. But it's true. So I wanted to give a lens on that through my character, who is a person of color, and kind of just be like, okay, look, there are actual human flaws that exist in black people too. Oh my god, wait, guys, we do actually have issues and we probably should seek therapy. But yeah, all of this comes together to create someone who feels human, not perfect, not highly curated, but real. And it all will reflect in his character and in his dialogue and everything, so you'll actually see these things come to light. If you're going to give your character quirks or their flaws, remember those flaws and have them show up in the way that they behave. Because you can say, oh, my character is actually really self-centered, or my character is actually suffers with so-and-so and this, that, and the third, and it doesn't show up in their personality. And that can be a big struggle that a lot of people have. So just like, honestly, if you are writing for your character, if you're in the writing phase or anything, always have their, like, basically, like, their sheet up. Everything that encompasses who they are, have it up until you memorize those things, because it'll really help you with the way that they communicate with each other, and how other characters interact with them. It's all the basics, but you'll forget it as you're writing, I'm telling you. Alrighty, now that we have our character, and we know their ins and outs, and they feel strong to us, they feel tangible, how do you actually want to introduce them? And how you introduce them matters just as much as who they are. Your character's introduction can be the beginning or the beginning of the end. Your character's introduction can make or break them. What makes a strong character introduction? First, you should show personality almost immediately. A strong introduction shows personality immediately. No hints, no potential, no they'll get interesting later. Immediately, because the audience is subconsciously asking, who am I following and why should I care? The faster you answer that, the stronger your hook. The reason this works is because when you show personality right away, the audience can anchor themselves to that character. They're not guessing, they're interpreting, and that creates engagement. Instead of thinking, who is this? They start thinking, oh, this is the kind of person we're dealing with. The viewer starts building a mental model. They're arrogant, they're kind, they're dangerous, and once that model is built, every action the character takes either reinforces that or challenges it. You can't develop a character if the audience doesn't understand their starting point. A clear introduction creates a solid baseline, and growth only feels satisfying when we can see where they started, where they struggle, and how they change. A strong introduction establishes tone, because your main character is the emotional translator of your story, as I mentioned before and will continue to mention, because it is very important that it is something that you remember. The audience doesn't just learn about the character, they learn how to feel about the world. A calm character in chaos, controlled tension. A scared character in chaos, overwhelming fear. A confident character in chaos, action and momentum. The viewer subconsciously decides, what kind of experience am I about to have? Are we surviving? Are we fighting? Unraveling a mystery? Watching a tragedy? And all of this matters because character directly affects story. Tone consistency builds trust. If the introduction sets a tone clearly, then when the tone shifts later, it feels intentional, not confusing. That allows character growth to feel like evolution, not inconsistency. So again, a strong introduction gives us a reason to care. Not necessarily to like them, but to care. And care comes from one of these three things: relatability, curiosity, and emotional tension. The viewer attaches through question. Can they keep this up? What broke them? Why are they like this? What are they going to lose? Investment is what carries a character through story. If the audience cares early, they'll stay through slow moments, character flaws, and even mistakes. Without that, they disengage and disengage quick. Up here, I'm going to put up a bunch of different character introductions I personally think are amazingly effective and very fun and interesting and kind of draw you in from the get-go. And I'll put the reasons why and just like the idea behind this character introduction and how it later supports who they become or who they are unable to become or what flaws they have. It's just really good to understand what makes a good character introduction and then to reflect that back on your story so you can understand how to introduce your character as well. So yeah, a strong introduction doesn't just show us who your character is, it teaches us how to watch them. And once the audience knows how to watch your character, they'll stay to see who they become. So yeah, this was kind of just like my crash course on how to write a likable main character, more so how to flesh out your main character in order to make them likable. You know what people like about main characters, and I think that if you study other main characters from genres that you're trying to get into, or if you're just trying to make a character that seems like somebody would enjoy them just based on who they are and like how they present themselves, then really just studying media and understanding what makes these things the way they are is really important. So yeah, a main character, simply put, is a story tool. As much as plot or theme, they just have dialogue and purpose. So as long as the main character is built with purpose, introduced with clarity, and written with humanity, they can and will succeed in spaces where they are appreciated. You do not have to write the character that everyone loves. In fact, you cannot. You cannot write a character that everyone on the freaking planet will enjoy. But you can write the best character possible for your story. Choose the right plot, and you can see where your character will take you, and it'll just be so enjoyable when you start to attract the people to your story that you want. So without holding you any longer, I'm gonna wrap it up. Stay creative, stay safe, and have a blessed rest of your day. I'll see you guys in the next one.